Today we're going to talk about the confusion of measuring protein and how much protein can you consume before it starts turning into a candy bar. Welcome everyone to my very humble life where I live on a ranch with horses, and I will be doing some lifestyle vlogs because, yeah, I love that. Protein, how much? If you eat too much, then you could have high uric acid levels, gout, high B12, iron, constipation. And if you eat too little, then you might have issues with healing and muscle growth and sleep and substrates to just build, period, because our whole body is made out of proteins. So how much? I mean, people use these arbitrary measurements like per gram per pound of weight. So if I weigh 124 pounds at 5'3", then I should eat 124 grams of total protein. But then what's really confusing is some people say per gram per kilo, or per kilo per gram. So if I weigh 63 kilos, then I should eat 63 grams? Make it make sense. This is the reason why a lot of you guys should take your chronometers, your MyFitnessPal, all of these things that track your macros, and burn it. You cannot quantify the body clearly with a number. There's general guides, but when guides conflict each other, toss it, especially when it comes to protein. The problem is, the reason why we don't factor in these per pound per gram or per kilo per gram is because of everybody has different amounts of caloric acids in the stomach. Well, we need stomach acid to break down protein. A lot of you who are eating fish and chicken or who were vegans have developed hypochlorhydrias, low stomach acid, and you have a difficulty breaking down protein, and then red meat becomes difficult to break down, so you go more towards the fish route and the chicken route, and then the stomach acids drop even more, and then the gallbladder starts freaking out because you're not eating enough fatty meats. It's a whole to-do. If you have low stomach acid, hypochlorhydria or hyperchlorhydria, if you have high B12, high iron, if you're chronically dehydrated and develop constipation eating meat, if you are having issues with histamine intolerance and your meats, why would I at 5'3" cram down my gullet 123 grams? Now, 63 grams would make more sense, but 63 grams would not make sense if I have any of these issues digesting protein or fat. Be very, very careful, because let's say if you're suffering from a gallbladder issue and you start leaning towards the leaner side of meat, now we're having more protein per gram, just in general. And if you have issues with hypochlorhydria, you're not breaking down that meat. Or what if your urine is foamy and you're not absorbing the protein, but you keep eating more and more protein? And this is where the rubber hits the road into a crash. Because the advice that you guys are getting is confusing and nonsensical. It makes no sense why two measuring systems contradict each other 100%. And then we have this like veganism versus carnism, where the vegans think that you can get enough amino acids for building blocks with soy, and then the carnists think that you're getting enough fat for motility and for your brain. And they're both wrong in so many ways. It's all about high fat, not high protein. So that's problem number one. When people are consuming way too much protein because they're using these weird, arbitrary counting systems of trying to measure their protein. You have to go by not these mathematical equations, because you can't define the body in this mathematical equation with protein. You have to think, do I have foamy urine? Can I absorb that protein? Because if you keep pushing more protein down the gullet and you're not absorbing it, then you're going to start to have immune issues. And then all those other numbers start to go up, like the B12 and the iron. You have to literally know your existing health before doing a carnivore diet or a ketogenic diet, so you understand what macros that you need to consume as an individual and not use these apps. The apps are garbage and they're often wrong. Yeah. So, for example, if I have hypochlorhydria or histamine intolerance, then I have to think, can I eat a steak? Maybe I have to take that steak and eat minced ground beef instead. And ground beef has more fat per gram, total gram and weighted gram. And by the way, there's two different grams. There's weighted gram and total protein in grams. And I think the rest of the world gets very confusing when you're speaking in grams and grams. What I propose you guys to do is lean closer on the per kilo per gram, but really not that, but what your body as an individual needs to build muscle and to have structure and to not have GI issues. If you have a gallbladder issue, you're going to have a more difficult time consuming a lot of very fatty meats. And then you have to consider things like pork belly, which is very fatty, especially with the rendered fat that drips from the actual pork belly. But technically, you can eat a lot more extremely fatty meats than the leaner meats. I often say, go for the fattier cuts and not the leaner cuts if you want to consume more bulk of food, protein/fat, rather than the leaner chicken breasts and shrimp. And a lot of you guys are still eating meat and steak that's too lean because you find it gross to have the gristly fat left on your steak. The reality is, it's the individual, like I expressed before, that is going to, you cannot compare yourself to another person. If you have really good motility, you're not constipated, you have no problem with iron or B12, if you have enough stomach acid and you lift, you can get away, and you can get into ketosis and you have GLUT4 receptors, you can get away with more protein. But there's a cap. Even if you're good in all those areas, at some point your body can only eat, swallow, and utilize a percentage of protein, and the rest must be eliminated. And there's this whole thing called priming, or these concepts that you can eat protein, and if you're not taking a dump, it's because you're using up all the protein. No wonder you guys are confused about the amount of protein you should consume. People who've got poor motility and digesting and low stomach acid will have that steak, that 12, 6, 8, 10, 12 ounce steak sit in their gut, rotting and literally rancidifying in their gut, which is going to be toxic to the bloodstream. You're having things rotting in your stomach. This is when you find people getting sick. They're not getting into ketosis from too much protein. Then they're not breaking down all the protein, and you might find people either having loose stool or constipation. Know your existing health and understand this. The goal is to get into ketosis. and not try to use that protein like it's a candy bar. You can't restore glycogen storages on protein, so you might as well go high fat. This is why I like the fattiest cuts of meat, because you can get away with a lot more. You can go surpass this 63 kilos or 63 kilos in weight and 63 grams that I'm eating. I can go up to a higher amount if I'm healthy and I've got good gut motility and I'm working out and I can utilize and uptake this protein for structure. There is no answer. Everyone's like, what's the number? Well, if you're a woman and you don't work out and you have slow motility, a low stomach acid, and you've got high blood sugar, I would chew your protein incredibly slow and have your protein, depending on your size and activity, between 50 and 75. I only require between 50 and 60-ish. That's all I need. But if I choose to eat a little bit more, I'm going to, whatever my body does not use and converts back into glucose, I'm going to uptake that in my GLUT4 receptor sites, my receptors, and use it as energy. Unfortunately, a lot of you guys don't do that. You store it as fat. I know. Don't be afraid of fat, because you have to eat very fatty cuts of meat and add fat to your plate to feel satiated. You're not getting fat because of the fat. You're getting fat because your blood sugar is running too high, and you might have insulin issues, and that's a whole nother video. I had a consultation today with a woman's like, oh, my blood sugar's 5.2, and I'm like, yeah, you can't get into ketosis in millimoles, not A1C. We're talking her fasted glucose was a 5.2, and I'm like, that's too high. I don't understand. The body is not going to compete between glucose and ketones. Glucose will win because that's quick energy. It's not good energy to have all the time. So stop eating so much protein and stop fasting. Find protein that you can digest well, that's high quality, and always go moderate to low and moderate to extremely high fat to feel satiated. Don't use protein. Don't use these apps. Know your existing health and lifestyle and lean mass, and that will be the indication of how much protein. Men, it can be between 60 and 95 to 100, depends literally on how active you are, how tall you are. Someone like Sean Baker, who's 6'5", who lifts like a beast, can tolerate a bit more protein than the average guy. So know your existing health, and I'm out. Peace. You can book a consultation through stephanieperson.com. Also, I run a course where I cover all 3 diets. It's a monthly subscription, $15 a month. And you can go to stephanieperson.com for that. My Instagram is Stephanie Ketogenic. My Facebook fan page is Stephanie the Business Person. And now I gotta edit this biatch. And I still have not done my expose of this debacle carnivore retreat where, in my opinion, I was scammed. But tomorrow I will finish that video and then I will move on. Yeah. And I'm out. Comment below and let me know if you have any confusion on how much protein, or are you bloated, or do you become constipated, or are you experiencing foamy urine, gout symptoms, high uric acid, purines, kidney pain. That's another one. If you are dehydrated, don't shove a bunch of protein through the gullet, even if you have good GLUT4 receptor development and lift. Yeah, that's a big problem with the kidneys. Yeah. It doesn't give you kidney disease, but if you're doing a carnivore diet and you're not hydrated, and then you could develop some kidney issues. Yeah. Peace.